Hello, Chipper and Jelly Bean. It's me, Lovey. I know my voice sounds a little bit hoarse, but it really is me. I'm going to tell you a story about Chicken Little. A character is a person or an animal that a story is about. Characters can be in the beginning, the middle, or the end of a story. I seem to have forgotten how many characters are in Chicken Little. Lovey has such a bad memory. Can you help me remember how many characters are in Chicken Little by counting the characters as I tell you the story? And then when we're finished with the story, I want you to tell me how many characters were in the story. Aw, look at those pictures of Chipper and Jelly Bean with Lovey. Vocabulary is the body of words that you know and use. Okay, so put on your listening ears and shake out your arms while we go over some of the vocabulary words that you're going to hear throughout the story. Hey, how did I turn into a pig? An acorn is the seed of an oak tree. You might have seen one of these acorns on the ground. Have you ever seen an acorn on the ground? What? Now I'm a turkey. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Well, we already talked about what a character is. A character is the person or animal that a story is about. Now I'm a big bear. A den is a cave-like home for wild animals, like bears. Fiction is a type of book or story that has imaginary characters and events. What pictures do you see in this book that lets you know that it's an imaginary story?
Hello. I am Miss Smiley. The word sly means sneaky or secretive. What is the fox doing that looks sly or secretive?
Lovey is losing her voice, Chipper and Jelly Bean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Miss Smiley come back and tell you guys the story about Chicken Little. Please don't forget to help Lovey remember how many characters are in the story. And if you could remember their names, that would be great too. I'll see you in a little bit.
One fine morning, Chicken Little went out to the woods. As she walked along, an acorn fell on her head. Chicken Little was a silly little chicken, and she often made silly mistakes. Chicken Little thought the acorn was a part of the sky. Chicken Little was so caught by surprise that she worked herself into a tizzy. "Oh dear me!" she cried. "The sky is falling. I must go and tell the king." On her way to see the king, Chicken Little met Henny Penny. "Henny Penny, the sky is falling!" cried Chicken Little. "How do you know?" asked Henny Penny. "A piece of it fell on my poor head," said Chicken Little, rubbing her poor little noggin with the memory of it. "Then let us go and tell the king," said Henny Penny, who now felt quite worried as well. So Henny Penny and Chicken Little ran along until they met Goosey Lucy. Goosey Loosey, the sky is falling," cried Henny Penny. "How do you know?" asked Goosey Loosey. "A piece of it fell on my poor head," said Chicken Little. Goosey Loosey looked at Henny Penny, who nodded in agreement. "Then let us go and tell the king," said Goosey Loosey, who could not help but believe her friends. So Goosey Loosey, Henny Penny, and Chicken Little hurried along until they met Ducky Lucky. "Ducky Lucky, the sky is falling," cried Goosey Loosey. "How do you know?" asked Ducky Lucky. "A piece of it fell on my poor head," said Chicken Little. Henny Penny and Goosey Loosey stood nodding their heads, wide-eyed, next to Chicken Little. Ducky Lucky looked at her three friends, and became worried because they were so worried. "Then let us go and tell the king," said Ducky Lucky. So Ducky Lucky, Goosey Loosey, Henny Penny, and Chicken Little ran along until they met Turkey Lurkey, who was certainly the biggest of the birds. "Turkey Lurkey, the sky is falling," cried Ducky Lucky. "How do you know?" asked Turkey Lurkey. "A piece of it fell on my poor head," said Chicken Little. Henny Penny, Goosey Loosey, and Ducky Lucky stood behind Chicken Little, flapping their wings with worry. "Then let us go and tell the king," said Turkey Lurkey, for who was he, to disagree with four scared friends? So the five feathered friends ran along, until they met Foxy Loxy. "Foxy Loxy, the sky is falling," cried Turkey Lurkey. "Oh, is that so?" said sly Foxy Loxy, who knew better, but pretended to believe the five trembling birds. "If the sky is falling, you better keep safe in my den, and I will go and tell the king for you." So Chicken Little, Henny Penny, Goosey Loosey, Ducky Lucky, and Turkey Lurkey followed Foxy Loxy into his den. The dust in the den made Chicken Little sneeze. Achoo! The force of the sneeze made Chicken Little come back to her senses. "Wait!" cried Chicken Little. "Birds are supposed to stay away from foxes." Henny Penny, Goosey Loosey, Ducky Lucky, and Turkey Lurkey looked at each other in amazement. "You are right," they cried. And so the five feathered friends ran out of the cave and never went back there again. And from that day on, they thought very carefully before believing that the sky was falling again. Do you remember what a character is? Let's help Lovey remember how many characters were in this story. Did you guess 6? That's right. Do you remember the characters' names? Let's see. The main character is Chicken Little. Then there is Henny Penny, Goosey Loosey, Ducky Lucky and Turkey Lurkey. Oh yeah. And Foxy Loxy.
Wow, what an exciting story. Thank you so much, Chipper and Aria, for helping me remember the characters at the beginning and in the middle and at the end of this story. I enjoyed listening to this story with you guys, and I hope that we can listen to another one soon. I love you.